Awesome! Alright, we're gonna start this module off, start this book off, one of the most powerful concepts you can ever learn. And it's this idea of the money blueprint, Because once you master the money blueprint, you master yourself. And you guys have already started on this, just by going through this concept of having a budget and having, so that 10% that goes to that, 10% goes to that, 10% goes to that, and then your living expenses, which is super cool. But this is like deeper, this is mental, this is you. And that's really the big shift here. And he starts off really powerful. It says we live in a world of duality. You got up, you got down, there's positive, there's negative. And in a world of duality, there's hot, there's cold, there's fast, there's slow, there's left, there's right. Just a few examples of the thousands of opposite poles that exist. And for one pole to exist, the other pole must also exist. It's not possible to have right without left. You've got to have duality, right? And so consequently, there are the other outer laws of money, just as there are inner laws of money. So just like there's duality in every other aspect of life, there are rules outside for money and there are rules inside for money. And the outer laws include things like business knowledge, money management, investment strategies, word for word. This is how you build an asset. And these are essential. But the inner game is just as important. Analogy would be a carpenter and his tools. Having top-of-the-line tools is imperative, but being the top-notch carpenter who masterfully uses these tools is even more critical. You can give somebody literally the best baseball bat on the planet, but if they don't know how to play baseball, they're not gonna be able to hit it particularly far over and over and over again. To not have it for themselves, right? They haven't mastered themselves. And he has this really great saying here. He says that it's not enough to be in the right place at the right time. He says you have to be the right, and this is the big differentiator here, the right person in the right place at the right time. If you look at the story of how massive companies like Facebook started, Zuckerberg, he wasn't just at the right place in the right time. Like there were like other people at Harvard that actually originated the idea for what eventually became Facebook. And those guys, they originated the idea, but they didn't know how to code, right? And so because they didn't know how to code, they didn't want to build the correct teams that could actually create the code for what they wanted to create with the social network. They weren't able to turn it into a reality, and Zuckerberg turned it into a billion-dollar business, right? Why? It's because he was the right person. The guys who originally had the sort of idea for that kind of social network, they were two guys rowing crew who were just partying in frats and didn't really understand, well, they just couldn't find anyone to code for them, right? And nothing like wrong with that. The only challenge was they weren't the right person at the right place at the right time. Whereas Zuckerberg was in the exact same place at the exact same time. The only difference was he was the right person. He took it, ran with it, and made it a huge success. So who are you? How do you think? What are your beliefs? What are your habits? What are your traits? And how do you really feel about yourself? How confident are you in yourself? How well do you relate to others? How much do you trust others? These are really big questions. If you look at Bill Gates, he was very similar to tons and tons of other people. They were pitching all these IBMs, all these big new computer companies on how they could run this software to make all their computers user-friendly and operate really well. And he was alongside literally dozens of other people pitching software. He was in the exact same place at the exact same time as the exact same person as many of the other people. And what differentiated him from everyone else is that he took a meeting with one of the lead executives of a top computing firm, things like IBM or something like that, and he went in to pitch him on this software they didn't even have. And the guy liked his idea, he liked him, and he said turn it into a reality in 2 months. And in 2 months, he sort of scrapped together the tools, scrapped together the people he needed to make the project happen. He coded, and he turned it into a reality and turned it into a $1 billion company, right? Huge. Why is it huge? Huge because he's the right person at the right time, the right mindset. So it's really critical when you think about these questions, when you think about, how confident you are in yourself and how you really feel about yourself and how well you relate to others, how much you trust others. And this is good because you've gone through the Jim Rohn content, so you know that it's so critical that you work on yourself and that you grow yourself. And especially if you've gone through the social skills, how to win friends and influence people masterclass, the seminar, you sort of understand this core concept, like who you are. Once you truly feel you deserve wealth, your ability to act in spite of fear, in spite of worry, in spite of inconvenience, in spite of discomfort, your ability to act when you're not in the mood allows you to be decisive. And the fact is that your character, your thinking, and your beliefs are a critical part in what determines the level of your success. Like everything comes from obviously the assets that you invest in, but it's also your character, right? It's also your thinking, it's also your beliefs. Like without these, and then obviously like this all comes into, you know, investing in asset. And it all comes down together as a group to form the success that you desire. One of Eckert's favorite authors puts it in this way. He says the key to success is to raise your own energy. He says when you do, people will naturally be attracted to you, and when they show up, bill them. It's a little bit interesting, but the key wealth principle from it is that your income can only grow to the extent that you do, and that's hopefully something that you're a little bit more comfortable with now that you've gone through all the Jim Rohn stuff, which is literally game changing. Now here's the cool thing, right? Like, why is your money blueprint important? Have you heard of people who've blown up financially? You know, people that win the lottery or literally make like tons of money overnight. You know, so some people have a lot of money and then they lose it. And they have excellent opportunities to start well, and then they go sour and they just fade away. And they literally throw away massive business opportunities. Like, why do you think people who win the lottery, like statistically, have a higher chance of going bankrupt than anybody else on the planet? It's because of their money blueprint. They're not used to wealth. They're not used to growth. I can show you ways that you can get like 10x, 20x, 30x, 100x returns. And literally most people will like, they'll think that like, oh, this is free money, I gotta go lose all of it now. So they don't have the right mindset, they don't have the right system, they don't have the right setting for themselves. And so it's really critical. You know, it's not like a bad luck, or it's not a downturn in the economy, it's not a lousy business partner. On the inside, it's another matter. It's who you are, it's how your mind operates. That's why if you come into big money when you're not ready for it on the inside, the chances are that your wealth will be short-lived and you'll lose it. So the key here is you need to be ready for wealth. Now you might be thinking, and I remember I first read this, I was thinking like, what do you mean ready for wealth? Like, give me $100 million and I will put it in my bank account faster than you can say thank you. What does ready for wealth mean? It means that you already mentally envision yourself with the amount of money that you desire in the future. That you already see yourself with that money. And if you went through the Think and Grow Rich course, as you go through the Think and Grow Rich course, you're gonna get much deeper into the concept. But the core is what we talked about just a minute ago, is that you already see yourself on top of this mountain. And see, most people, they're standing here on the ground, right? And as you're sitting here on the ground, if they accidentally come into a bunch of money, or they make really good investments, or they go through this training and they learn how to invest in assets that make a lot of money, and they have all this money, this pile piles high, and obviously this is like a mental visualization of the money they're creating. It piles high. And all of a sudden, these individuals, they're sort of overbeared by money. This money is like literally collapsing on them, and they feel like it's crushing them. And there's so much of it that all they can do, they must get rid of it. They've got to get rid of it because there's just so much. And they have to get back into their little bubble, their little comfort zone. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to take this bubble, right? But we want to raise it up on a pedestal. We want to make it so that no matter where you're starting right now, you already mentally visualize yourself 10 steps ahead of everyone else. And once the money starts to come in, the money isn't overbearing, the money isn't overflowing. Instead, the money is just kind of filling up this tank, right? This tank that you've built. And the tank starts off empty, but you've built a tank. And so as you fill up your tank with money, as you fill up your bank accounts, you fill up your portfolios, it's like, oh, okay, this is natural, right? This is something that I'm expecting. And because of that, it's gonna be like literally thousands of times easier to actually retain that money. Think about it like you're building a swimming pool, and then you're learning how to get really great at investing, and then you fill up your swimming pool, versus somebody who just goes straight into investing and then they have a fire hose just like splurting out all over them and filling up their entire house with water because they didn't spend the time building the swimming pool to actually hold the money. Think about that inside your mind, right? Inside your mind, you have to be mentally prepared. You have somewhere for that money to go, so that when it comes in, it doesn't flood your house, but instead it fills up the pool nicely, and you get to actually enjoy the money rather than see it like soak in your carpets and wash away all your furniture and destroy your house and destroy your structuring and your basement, flood your basement, because you didn't have a plan in place for what you're gonna do when that water actually comes in, when that money actually comes in. So that's why it's really critical that, you know, we've gone through this personal budgeting stuff earlier in this month, right? And Ecker, he kind of talks about how a vast majority of people simply do not have the internal capacity to create and hold on to large amounts of money. And hopefully with the 9 to noon training in the book and everything that we're going to go so much deeper into, you kind of understand how to create a lot of money. Because financial markets will give you, I mean, literally you can make so much money so quick, it's insane. But the goal here is really to help you hold on to that money, right? And Ecker says that, you know, individuals the increased challenges that go with more money and success are the primary reason that most of his friends don't actually have money. Because in reality, all money's gonna do is make you more of who you already are, right? You're already a jerk, you get more money, you're gonna mean it, right? You're already nice, you get more money, you're gonna be awesome, right? And you guys have probably heard this before, but it's a really critical mentality to have, because if you don't understand that, you don't put the work in at the beginning to be who you want to be in the future, you don't put the work in now to actually build up this metaphorical internal pedestal, and then you get all this money, it's gonna destroy you. It's just, I've seen it like literally crush people. They start investing, and I know I have some clients, or not clients, like students, and you know, they make, and this was before, you know, I've been teaching this, and they make tons and tons of money. They would literally like make probably 5, 6 figures in options trades and just like blow it out of the water. And then they'd be sad, they would be less happy with themselves because they didn't have the right mindset going into it, and they weren't prepared for that wealth. And because of that, they risk and they risk and they risk and they risk. They take huge risks with very small upside because they're just not comfortable, used to having that amount of wealth. It's really kind of a crazy thing to even talk about or even think about. Like, it all comes from who they see themselves at. So, you know, for example, obviously there's lottery winners, you know, regardless of the size that they win, winners return to their original financial state. This again goes back to this concept of set point, right? If your set point is at, you know, X much money, and then you win like $500 billion, you're going, oh my God, this is so much money. Eventually, if you don't move your set point, you're going to return to your set point. And so obviously that's what we're trying to do here, is increase that set point. And we'll get a little bit more into that next month. I have some really great tools that you guys are gonna be able to use to really increase your set point. But that's not the goal. This week, the goal, we gotta get this millionaire mindset done. So we get it done. So with that said, the opposite occurs with self-made millionaires. Self-made millionaires, like, even if they lose their money, and on average, you know, most of the millionaires on this planet have gone bankrupt on average about 3 times. But they keep getting back up and they keep succeeding because their set point is so freaking high. Donald Trump like has this crazy book, Art of the Deal. It's literally, it's so crazy. And if you're, I mean, it's more like real estate stuff, but it's also just a lot of stuff about like actual internal mindset, actual beliefs on how to create tons and tons of wealth. And I would really, I mean, it's a really good book. I'll leave my review of it below because it's phenomenal. And he talks about these stories where he literally lost billions of dollars. He was worth negative billions of dollars. He was destroyed. He was dead financially. And yet for him, even though he was literally negative by more than most people actually make in their entire life, he still had a set point way over here. He had a set point at tons and tons and tons and tons of money. And so when the bankers, they knocked on his door and they came into his home and they said, hey, you owe us literally billions of dollars. You've lost all of our money. And if you want to learn more about this story, I highly recommend you read The Art of the Deal. It's literally so good. Like, there's so much to learn there about wealth. But anyway, these bankers come to his door and they knock on the door and they come inside and they say, hey, you've got a problem. You owe us billions of dollars. And Donald Trump sits back in his chair and he does this concept which is so critical. Like, he cares, but not that much. And he says to these bankers, he says, with this little cigar in his mouth, he says, you know, I think you've got a problem. He says, what do you mean? You owe us billions of dollars. And he says, yeah, I know, that's a big problem for you. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. We're gonna restructure this loan, we're gonna restructure these deals, and we're gonna restructure this property so that you get paid back. This is a problem for you, and this is a problem for your bank. And these bankers are floored because they realize they're talking to somebody who's not worried about bankruptcy, because in Trump's mind, that wasn't even an option. That wasn't even a possibility. He only saw himself as a massive success. He only saw himself with literally billions. He did not have a millionaire mind. He had a billionaire mind. And for him, this was just a temporary setback, a temporary crash, temporary state. And he turned that failure, pivoted it, anyone could even dream of, and made it into a $1 billion real estate empire, right? So, holy crap, really good book. There's a lot of stuff in there about like how he started off. And it kind of shows that like you can start at the bottom and really build, get to the top. Simply, and this is probably the biggest thing that you want to look for as you go through that book, simply by building up your own mental pedestal where you see yourself in the future as so much more than you are right now. When Zuckerberg, you know, was starting Facebook, like he wasn't thinking about like how many 100 million people are gonna, how many million people are gonna use our platform? How many 100,000 people? Like early on in the development, before they even hit 1 million clients or 1 million, users. He was thinking like, what's this platform gonna be like when it's at 1 billion? What's it gonna be like when it's at 2 billion? What's it gonna be like growing? And he hadn't even hit 1 million. Why? Because he was mentally envisioning the future that he wanted. He's mentally preparing himself for that growth. And that was sort of the huge mindset shift that changed everything for him. Because for him, like, he could never just be a millionaire. He could never just make 6 figures. He could never just have that level of success. He's constantly used to being a billionaire because that's where his set point is. And so think about like where you want your set point to be, and it will become your reality. It's just so powerful, so critical. Most people, if they had $1 million, they would feel amazing. Maybe, right? It depends on where you are, it depends on your goals. For me, not so much, but I know for some people, like $1 million is a really big objective. For Donald Trump, and for some of the most successful people on this planet, $1 million is gonna make them feel like they're broke. They're gonna feel total like losers. They're gonna feel like a financial failure because their set point is so much higher. And if you've been struggling to understand set point, think about it like a thermometer. Think about it, what Eckhart calls a thermostat. He's got this thermostat and he's turned it up past what everybody else is set at. Billions, right? And so all you have to do is consciously attack that thermostat, consciously go out and say, look, I will increase my thermostat. Because most people grow up their lives sitting in this room, right? And this room can be their whole life, and they can grow up with their parents, they can grow up with the peers that are influencing them, and they get all this influence that basically pushes them into this corner and says, this is where you should be, and this is the temperature that you should be, and this is how much money you deserve, this is how much money you should make. You should go, you get a job, and you'll make this much a year for the rest of your life. Versus being able to escape all this, walk over to the other side of this room, find the thermostat on the wall, and increase the temperature from, say, 40,000 a year. 50,000 a year, 60,000 a year, 100,000 a year, 2,000, 100,000 a year, 400,000 a year. Increase that temperature to millions. Increase that temperature to tens of millions. Increase that temperature to hundreds of millions. Increase that temperature to billions. The way people operate at those higher levels of wealth is simply because they made the conscious decision to increase their wealth temperature. And they went over to that thermostat that was sitting inside their mind and they said, I want more. I will create more. And that's exactly what they did to create that level of abundance. Every single person I know that has a bank account with more than $100 million in it got there because they made a decision that they were gonna be different, that they were gonna have more, that they were going to achieve more, that they were gonna do more. And it manifested itself in investment assets. It manifested itself in cryptocurrency assets. It manifested itself in business assets, a lot of business assets, a lot of investing assets. Crypto is a little bit newer. And they shifted what they were willing to settle for. They shifted what they deemed appropriate and worthy of themselves. The deal is most people's financial thermostats are literally set below zero. Most people set points, a lot of people set points that are in debt, that are struggling paycheck to paycheck, like they are there because they're set to zero. They're set to negative, right? Some people, like, what's your bank account usually at? Some people are set to thousands. Some people are set to maybe, 5 figures. Other people are set to 9 figures. Other people are set to 10 figures. What's the difference? All it is a decision of where you decide to set your thermostat. And please, oh my gosh, if you're set negative and you have debt, like, all you have to do to shift that is to change your mindset. All you have to do is change and apply these secrets we're about to go through and set it to positive, because that is shit and it's really bad. Because see, the thing is, like, most people are freezing and they don't have a clue why, because their thermostats are so low. And the reality is that most people do not reach their full potential, and most people are not successful. And research shows that 80% of individuals will never be financially free in the way they'd like to be, and 80% will never claim to be truly happy. That's awful. And the reason is very simple. And overcoming this reason is very rudimentary, very elementary, very basic once you understand it. The reason is that most people are unconscious. They're asleep at the wheel, and they work and they think on a superficial level of life based only on what they can see. They live strictly in the visible world. And you might be thinking, what's that mean? Let me give you guys an example. Yesterday was probably one of the craziest days so far of my investing career. One of my clients made $500,000 yesterday. It literally blew me away. I was so impressed. It was one of the most influential and inspirational things I've ever seen. And as a client makes 500, I was like, holy crap, it's a lot of money in one day. So I go up to my bud and I'm like, yo, dude, a client made $525,000 today. And he goes berserk, he goes crazy. And his date across from him, same things, like crazy, couldn't believe it. One of the most influential, and they're like, holy crap, like stocks are amazing. We gotta get into investments. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's crazy cool. I share with another friend, I'm like, dude, $500,000. Says, oh my God. Let's go freaking next month. I think next month we're gonna get into some of the really powerful financial mindset movies that are like the basis for fundamental analysis in asset investments. And I'm like, dude, we gotta go watch this. We gotta go do this right now. And we go and we watch one of the movies we're gonna go into soon about the crash, about the financial crisis, and then we're to learn from that to create a ton of money and like extremes in markets. And he's like, oh, this is so good. Next day, I go to one of my classes, there's economics, and my economics teacher wants me to drop, like everyone I know wants me to drop out. Anyway, I'm sitting next to this other guy, and he's looking at me trading stocks, as I have nothing to do. I already know the stuff in the class, so I'm just trading stocks. And he's like, oh, no way, how much money are you making? I'm like, dude, check this stuff out. It's freaking crazy cool. And I tell him about this client that just made $500,000. And unlike every other person there every other person I talked to so far about this, close friends that I knew, like that they knew what I do, I knew that they are cool. They were like blown away. They're like, holy crap, this is the coolest thing ever. They were conscious about the money around them. They were conscious about the investments that they had the opportunities to stake into. And they were like blown away and super pumped and super excited about investing. I talked to this one guy and it just blows over his head like I told him that my favorite color was jelly. I mean, it was like, it was almost like he didn't even hear me. And I'm like, dude, like, do you know, like, that's insane, dude. I would regret it a day. And it blows over his head, like wind going away. He doesn't even like, no, it doesn't even faze him. And the reason why is because a lot of people, maybe they don't want to talk about money, or they don't think they should care about their bank account. And they totally ignore all the wealth that's right in front of them. And they never have true financial freedom because they just don't put their attention or their focus on their wealth. And that was the case with this guy. Another person I was talking to before this client of mine had that really big success. I'm just talking about like normal, like how sort of the returns that I get with 9 to noon trading and with swing trading. And I'm like, yeah, like I basically never need to work for anybody ever. And just trade stocks and you make tons of money. You work like a couple hours a day. It's pretty dope. And this person's like trying to talk me into like how it's super risky, it's super scary, and it's the craziest thing ever. And I've been doing it for literally almost half a decade now. And over and over and over and over and over again. And they, all they're saying is like, oh, so risky, oh, so risky, oh, so risky, oh, so risky. And to them, like they're totally unconscious that there's something out there besides, a 9 to 5. They're totally ignorant. They're just not even caring that there are other extraordinary ways to grow well, because most people are walking around with the wrong state. They're walking around with the wrong being, and because of that, they're unconscious to the opportunities that are out there. They're unconscious, sort of some of the secrets we're going to go through here, as we understand the core for what actually creates a millionaire mind. They just don't care. And it's so insane because, like, you guys know, I literally give away my book for free. And I have kids read that book, they make 6 figures, like, within a couple of months. And it's absolutely berserk because there's just so much potential that comes only to those who are willing to take that leap, jump off that cliff, and say, look, I'm gonna learn about this. And I'm going to consciously put my attention on money. And so it's so ridiculous. One of the most taboo things for a lot of people is there's their money and their investments. But I think it's crazy because it's so fun to talk about investing. But people just don't do it. And so the big takeaway here is you've got to focus on increasing that set point. You can't just ignore your bank account and expect it to magically grow. You've got to put effort, dedication, and energy and turn it into a reality. And for gosh sake, like please, don't be one of those people that sees somebody make $500,000 in a day and says, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna go back to working over here, see if I can make 50 grand a year. Like, that's great. You can make some phenomenal investments doing that, but there's so much more that's out there. And so that's the big message for this module. So with that said, hope you guys got a ton of value. That's module. Go out there, apply it, absolutely crush it. I will see you in the next module. Thank you. Bye.